One afternoon on a busy bus ride, Julius noticed something alarming, a young girl making a subtle distress signal. Little did he know, this observation would lead to a chain of events that would change lives forever. Before we continue, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell for more incredible stories. That hectic afternoon, Julius was commuting to work aboard the bus, mentally gearing up for another extended shift at the diner. He wore his headphones, attempting to find a brief respite amid the turmoil of his everyday routine. Yet as he surveyed his surroundings on the bus, something peculiar captured his attention. It was a tall man seated several rows away. The man was clad in garish attire that contrasted starkly with the subdued clothing of the other commuters. Beside him sat a young girl who strikingly resembled him. It was clear to anyone that they were related as father and daughter. However, the child looked forlorn and despondent. She stayed close to her father, yet her expression was melancholic. Julius watched the two intently, sensing that something was amiss. The man's eyes were narrow and his mouth twitched as if he might be under the influence of some unlawful drugs. Despite his eye-catching outfit, his demeanor was tense. He frequently glanced around as though he was scanning for somebody. The girl, meanwhile, seemed too disheartened to engage with anyone. She merely sat quietly, her gaze fixed on the ground. As Julius' bus stop approached, the young girl suddenly met his eyes. Her look was one of agony, as though she was silently begging for assistance. When her father momentarily diverted his attention to the window, she took a startling action. The girl touched her neck and gently squeezed. Julius felt his heart racing as he tried to comprehend the gravity of the gesture. Concerned for the girl's safety, Julius hesitated to disembark at his stop, but ultimately decided to follow them to ensure she was okay. He trailed them to a diner, observing the girl's distress continue and intensify. Unsure of what to do, he decided to keep an eye on them and seek advice from his colleagues. Once he got to work, less than 30 minutes later, an astounding event occurred. To Julius' astonishment, the same man and his daughter entered the diner where he worked. Julius' eyes widened in shock as he observed them. The girl's attire had been switched to a more opulent ensemble, suggesting the man had taken her on a shopping spree. Julius found it peculiar that these elegantly dressed individuals had earlier ridden a bus. Now as they made their way into an upscale restaurant, something seemed off. Julius watched the couple intently as he walked toward their table. The man asked for a lavish feast, listing selections from the menu effortlessly. Julius also noted that the man paid with brand new bills. Despite the grand meal before them, neither the man nor the girl showed any appetite. The man frequently peered out the window, his gaze swiftly shifting as though searching for someone. In contrast, the girl remained quiet and melancholic, merely toying with her meal and utensil. As Julius brought their beverages, he caught the girl's gaze. She looked at him with a melancholic expression that stirred him deeply. Her look conveyed a silent message of anguish, as if she was again seeking aid without words. When the man diverted his attention back to the outside, the girl made a gesture that alarmed Julius. It mirrored the signal she had used on the bus. She clasped her neck gently, a definite sign she was under threat. Julius' pulse raced as he digested the scene. He recognized that he needed to act, but was uncertain of the next steps, leading him to seek advice from a coworker. He quietly pulled his colleague aside and relayed his observations. His colleague's expression turned grave as he glanced towards the man and girl's table. They both agreed that action was necessary, prompting them to speak with the manager about the concern. The manager, a stern man who valued the restaurant's high reputation, met Julius with a skeptical look as he listened to the concerns raised. Upon hearing the account, he stood and observed the man and girl through his office window. After a brief observation, he decisively brushed aside Julius' apprehensions. However, Julius felt this was because the manager did not want to trouble a customer who had made such a substantial purchase. He also considered the adverse press that might follow if the authorities were summoned on doubtful grounds. Consequently, the manager directed Julius to drop the matter. The establishment couldn't afford to alienate a client who contributed significantly to their revenue. Julius hesitantly accepted, yet his discomfort regarding the situation persisted. He observed the girl, who now appeared even more distressed, while the man tried to lighten the mood with humor. Her indifference to her father's light-hearted attempts only intensified Julius' worries. As the father gazed out the window once again, the girl caught Julius' eye and swiftly drew her finger across her throat, a more urgent and alarming gesture. Julius couldn't stand idly by any longer. Knowing his manager wouldn't be of help, he discreetly exited to the rear to contact the police. He detailed the critical nature of the situation to the operator and provided the location of the restaurant. Upon finishing the call, Julius was confronted with a chilling sight. The man and the girl were leaving. He watched as the manager bid them farewell with a smile, likely influenced by the substantial tip the man had left. The father and daughter entered a cab and departed, which made Julius feel powerless. Compelled to act, he quickly memorized the cab's license plate. 10 minutes later, law enforcement arrived. Confronted by the police, the manager was furious that Julius had disregarded his directive. He hastily tried to convince the officers that all was well, insisting that the concern was exaggerated and it was merely a normal interaction between a father and his daughter. Nonetheless, other servers corroborated Julius' observation. They shared their observations of the man's peculiar behavior and the young girl's evident distress. This prompted the officers to delve deeper into the case. Taking down the man's description and the cab's license plate number from Julius, they reassured the staff that they would thoroughly investigate the incident. However, no sooner had the police left than the manager harshly reprimanded Julius. He was extremely upset and threatened to dismiss Julius if he made such decisions again. He stressed the importance of avoiding drama at the restaurant and the need for Julius to heed instructions. Julius silently endured the reprimand, yet inwardly, he was certain he had acted appropriately. His intuition strongly indicated that something was amiss, and he held on to the hope that the authorities would uncover the truth. Following the reprimand, Julius' colleagues gathered around him, offering comforting pats on the back. He was a favorite among both the staff and clientele, cherished for his congenial demeanor and readiness to exceed expectations. Patrons specifically requested his service by name, and his coworkers respected his adeptness at managing job-related stress with elegance. Despite the manager's critique, his colleagues affirmed his strong performance. Yet beneath his sunny facade, Julius was silently enduring hardship. Balancing studies and work as a part-time student, he faced poor academic performance due to the exhaustive work hours needed to support his family, with his mother battling a severe illness requiring costly treatments and his father out of the picture. Julius solely shouldered the care for his mother and younger siblings. The heavy responsibilities never showed on his face, however. He maintained his professionalism, resolving that personal challenges wouldn't dampen his work ethic. However, Julius's professionalism didn't prevent him from intervening when he noticed someone at risk. Throughout his remaining work hours, he was preoccupied replaying the interactions of a young girl and a man at the restaurant, convinced she was signaling danger. He hoped his initiative would lead to her safety and that law enforcement would uncover the truth. The following day, Julius was relieved to receive a call from a police officer who had visited the restaurant, confirming ongoing investigation efforts. He was reassured knowing the authorities were engaged with the situation. This incident was now being handled by detectives Janet and Oscar, veterans skilled in solving cases of missing young ones. Their office was adorned with photographs of children they had rescued and appreciative notes from thankful parents. Upon receiving details about the young girl from the restaurant, the detectives prioritized the case driven by the urgency of the distress signal she had sent. They reached out to the cab driver who had transported the man and his daughter, obtaining the drop-off address. Their investigation led them to Luke Goud residing at that location. Although Luke's background included a single fraud charge 6 years prior, leading to a court case where he was not incarcerated, this was a pivotal clue in unraveling the case. This detail immediately set off alarms for the investigators. They also found it odd that Luke had traveled from a neighboring town simply to dine at a local restaurant. Detectives Janet and Oscar felt a deeper investigation was necessary. After receiving approval from authorities in Luke's hometown, they decided to visit his residence. When Luke opened the door, he was visibly taken aback by their presence. Janet and Oscar introduced themselves and shared the purpose of their visit. They were there to inquire about his daughter. Luke reacted with confusion, claiming he was mistaken for someone else, as he did not have a daughter. However, the detectives were not convinced by his denial. They showed him birth records that proved he indeed had a daughter named Sabrina. Caught in his deception, Luke swiftly altered his explanation. He suggested he questioned their legitimacy as law enforcement, which explained his initial response. He then mentioned that his daughter and wife were on a trip in Mexico, even proposing to show them flight reservations in their names. This rapid change in his story only heightened the detectives' suspicions, confirming their belief that he was concealing something. They asked to search his residence, but he refused. Without a search warrant, they could not proceed. Detectives returned to their office, determined to intensify their efforts to uncover the truth. They promptly requested a search warrant and set up surveillance around Luke's residence, hoping to capture any unusual activity. Their perseverance bore fruit as they witnessed a man and a young girl matching the descriptions provided, entering Luke's house late in the evening. Luke's home appeared unremarkable, blending with others on the block, but inside the girl's interaction with her father raised further concerns. The girl, despite having comfortable surroundings, appeared dejected and defeated. Her days were spent within the house, often engaged in solitary activities like watching television or reading. Luke's only trips were to the store, and he kept his distance from others. At one point, neighbors tried to interact, but he remained aloof. Detectives also noted that Luke received numerous deliveries, mostly children's clothing and toys, delivered discreetly by a mailman. Observing these signs of isolation and secrecy, the detectives felt justified in their concerns. With a search warrant finally obtained, they prepared to act. Their plan was carefully coordinated to avoid potential harm to the girl. Early one morning, they arrived at Luke's residence, presenting the warrant. They found Luke uncooperative, attempting to block their entry. Yet once they introduced themselves and explained their mission, they made their way into the house. Their search revealed Luke's background in fraud and his financial struggles, but more alarmingly, they discovered documents indicating he had assumed multiple identities, hinting at deeper deception. Despite the lack of conclusive evidence at that moment, the detectives didn't give up. In the ensuing days, their perseverance bore fruit. They discovered security footage from a nearby store showing the girl mouthing, "Help me," while Luke was momentarily distracted. This footage became pivotal evidence, convincing the detectives they were on the right path. Confronted with this proof, Luke broke down and confessed. He admitted to abducting Sabrina from her hometown, driven by a twisted belief that she could fill the void left by his estranged family. He insisted he had never harmed her and intended to provide for her. Despite his claims, the law enforcement officers saw through his feigned concern, understanding his delusion. As the detectives prepared to arrest Luke, Sabrina was taken to safety. She was reunited with her mother, who had been desperately searching for her for weeks. Sabrina's mother, tearful and overwhelmed, thanked the detectives for their dedication. Sabrina herself expressed gratitude to Julius, who had recognized her distress and taken action. She revealed she had learned the distress signal from an online safety video, never imagining she would one day need to use it. Julius was later honored at a community event where he received recognition from the police department for his bravery and quick thinking. Though he downplayed his heroism, insisting he merely followed his instincts, the community celebrated him as a hero. The ordeal had a significant impact on Julius's life. His determination to help Sabrina rekindled his passion for pursuing a career in law enforcement. With encouragement from the detectives and his colleagues, he began studying criminology. Though the journey was challenging, Julius was driven by a newfound purpose. The gratitude from Sabrina and her mother, along with the support from his community, reinforced his resolve. Julius's story was a testament to the power of vigilance and compassion. His actions not only saved Sabrina, but also inspired others to remain attentive and courageous in the face of adversity. The experience taught Julius that even in the darkest moments, a single act of kindness could make a profound difference. If you found this story inspiring, please like and subscribe to our channel. Remember to hit the notification bell for more incredible stories. Until next time, stay safe and vigilant.